everyone. This is Learning Through Reference Designs, a kind of new type of series where we're going to be trying to bridge the gap between the theory and diagrams that we learn in the classroom and what you're actually doing as an engineer, which is using real designs and implementing real circuits. So we're going to be looking at reference designs in order to learn more about how do you actually implement real circuits. And we're going to start with looking at gate driving for traction inverters. And we're going to kick everything off by talking to one of my colleagues who works at Texas Instruments. But before we get into that, we're going to start with a little bit of background. And let's go to an example. I'm using all examples from the internet today. So this is an article from EE Power, but it has a really nice figure here. So I wanted to utilize this. So when we have a traction drive, this is a three-phase system. So we have a three-phase inverters with three half bridges here. And their connection points, there's three connection points to the traction motor. And we have some switches. We want to be switching this middle node here, for example, on the first half bridge. We want that to be going from high voltage to the low voltage. So we have these two switches. Commonly now we're using silicon carbide. It has a very high breakdown voltage, meaning it can withstand a high voltage. So when the switch is off, it can withstand a high voltage without exploding, which is important. And so we want to be able to control those efficiently and to be able to drive the motor effectively. So this is our basic setup, but driving is not quite as simple. There's a lot of things that actually go into gate driving. The idea of learning from a reference design is to work from something that is already up. So we can learn a little bit about traction inverters from, for example, this is from TI's website. And there's a pretty good block diagram to kind of show you the different parts. The big battery here is going to be like the large bulk battery in your electric vehicle. So those are higher voltage, and they are going to be these are the half bridge, so you can kind of see there's multiple, there's three of them, and then they're going to be driving the motor here. And of course we have a whole bunch of control systems, and I'm not going to go into those details. What we're looking at specifically here is the driver, and we need some sort of signal to drive that, so a PWM comes in here. We're going to have some isolation. That's important for creating a electrical barrier between the lower voltage, so you can see 12 volts here, and the higher voltage, which is whatever the battery is going to be. And then we need to actually drive these switches. So we have a HS means high side driver and LS means low side driver. So if you click on this, you can see actually there's a bunch of different reference designs. There's quite a few. We're going to be focusing on just this one down here. And so this is the TIDM 02014. It's a high power, high performance automated silicon carbide traction inverter reference design. And so we're going to be going through some of the details of that, but I just want to show you, if you're looking at a design, you can have a full produced and tested design. That's a reason that we use reference designs. And the good thing is that usually the company will provide all of the things for you. So there's going to be some documentation. This is quite a large file, but it gives all the details. It'll give you the schematic, the bill of materials, a suggested one, the Gerber files, the layout files, so you can really have like a full design that you can look at and then learn from and then adapt for your own. We're going to kick things off with a conversation with my colleague, Dr. Pradeep Shenoy, and learn about some of the important features in this reference design for traction inverters. Hello, Pradeep, or Dr. Shenoy, I should say. So we are having a conversation with Dr. Shenoy at TI, so please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pradeep Shenoy. I am the leader of the Power Design Services team that focuses on the automotive market at Texas Instruments, and I'm a longtime friend of Professor Kim.
Yes, so it's my really great pleasure to be talking to you today. And so we're going to jump into one of these reference designs that you've been working on. And so actually, I'm going to let you take it away from the beginning and just talk about the application a little bit and how what we're looking at today, how it fits into the greater system.
Absolutely. So today what we're going to talk about is a traction inverter. So this is, and I'll show you a quick block diagram. A traction inverter, if you're not familiar with it, it is the power converter that converts energy from the high voltage battery in an electric vehicle and uses that energy to drive an electric machine, so your electric motor. And usually this high voltage battery is maybe 400 volts or 800 volts nominally. And this traction inverter converts the energy from DC, which is what the battery is a DC source, into an AC waveform that drives this electric machine that then drives the wheels. So there's a lot of different systems and things that go into a traction inverter. We won't go into all those today, but what Professor Kim and I are planning on talking about is how do you turn on and off these large power switches that are inside of this traction inverter. This is the power stage right here. And there's these large, usually IGBTs or silicon carbide MOSFETs maybe, that are these big switches that you turn on and off. The question really is, how do you do that? So what TI has is a reference design that we recently released that kind of demonstrates how a traction inverter works. And this reference design is for a nominal 800 volt battery, 300 kilowatts, and it's assuming that you have silicon carbide as your major power devices. And here's a picture of it from a couple different angles. What you can see here is these two bars on the top. That's where you connect to your battery, plus and minus. And then these three bars on the bottom, that's where you connect to your electric machine, your motor. And then inside of here, what you can see on these different boards here is these three boards here are for the gate drivers and the bias supplies for those gate drivers. And then over here, this is like a control board and some other things like that. The power modules, these big power switches, they're actually beneath these boards. You can't really see them quite so well from this angle.
And so can I ask one question about, so the way that you're building this is you have the small modules. So is there a reason for doing it in small modules? Is it for like replaceability, or is there a different motivator for that?
For our purposes, it is just probably for ease of design. There is some modular aspects. I mean, these boards are identical. So, and you can get away with that with one of these reference designs. In an actual traction inverter, they may all be combined into one board, just for simplicity.
Okay, great. So, right, because some of the purposes of this design is just to make it work first, and then you would improve the version for product.
That's
okay.
Right. That's right. So let me dive a little bit into this reference design. I think what I will try to focus on is one of the major components in this reference design is the gate driver. Now, this gate driver is kind of like the creme de la creme, one of the best, most advanced gate drivers that you'll ever see in the world. It has a lot of protection features, and I can show some of them in this data sheet here. I'll just look at the high level what this gate driver does, but it's very full featured, and it has a lot of advanced protection features in it because in a traction inverter, you have a lot of unique requirements and expectations. You want to be able to adjust the gate drive strength on the fly. You want to have a lot of other features like short circuit protection built into it for safety. And this whole design has to be very functionally safety compliant. You don't want any problems to occur in this very safety critical application in your vehicle. Now, another thing that is very important, that's very basic with this gate driver that you'll see here in this diagram on the bottom right is that it's isolated. Now, why is it isolated? One of the main reasons why it's isolated is on the left-hand side here, this is where the control signals from, let's say, your microcontroller come from. And your microcontroller is usually on some low voltage domain in your vehicle. And let's say it's the, often in a lot of cars, they call this the 12-volt domain. Whereas the switches that this gate driver is turning on, they're these big power FETs. They are not in the low voltage system. They're connected to the high voltage system. And there's a lot of isolation requirements. Often reinforced isolation is necessary here. And so that's one of the fundamental challenges, or maybe I should say reasons why we have an isolation barrier and why isolated gate drivers are so important. Another thing to also note is in the traction inverter, and I'll jump back quickly to the block diagram, you can see that there's two switches. There's a high side switch and a low side switch. And what's important to note about that is the high side switch, you are turning it on by applying a gate voltage with reference to the source of that switch. And the thing about the source of that switch, though, is it's kind of going up and down between ground and the high voltage battery level. And so if I go back to this diagram here, that's yet another reason why you need isolation, because on this, what we often refer to this as the secondary side or the high voltage side. The node here, that is the source of the switch, or ground 2 in this diagram, it's going up and down. And so it's not anywhere close to the low voltage ground. It could be up at 800 volts. It could be down at 0 volts. So that's another reason why we need isolation here.
And so I'm noticing that and sometimes when we do high side driving, so this could work for high side and low side. There's no Bootstrap capacitor in this one.
Yes.
So because we're using an isolated supply, and it's referenced to the source of the FET,
yes,
we don't need to have the Bootstrap capacitor.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let me show you a little bit of a zoomed in view of the gate drive board. So there is in this gate driver board, there's both a isolated bias supply and an isolated gate driver for both the low side switch and the high side switch in that half bridge. Now in this case, the isolated gate driver that we're using has an integrated transformer. A lot of other isolated bias supply topologies also exist that will have an external transformer, but we have this unique device here that provides a bias to the gate driver. And why is that important? So if we go back to this slide, this image here, what we can see is on the secondary side, you have this VCC2. That is the voltage that will be applied to the gate of this switch when it's turned on. And you need to have some way of providing that supply voltage. In a traction inverter, because it's a fairly important system in the vehicle, and they often want to have redundancy in all of this and just a high level of functional safety, they often will have isolated bias supplies for each of these switches. Now, in other applications, you can probably get away with what's called a bootstrap circuit, or it's a fairly simple circuit with just a diode and a capacitor that will be used to drive your high side switch. But in this case, we have an isolated bias supply. And I have another design that's similar to this one that I can share the schematic for here, just to give you an idea of what that looks like in the schematic. What you can see here on the top left is a separator converter, and that provides a regulated fixed voltage of around 24 volts. And that is being supplied to the isolated bias supply. That isolated bias supply then provides power to the isolated gate driver, which is shown down here. Now the SEPIC is there because in a vehicle, a lot of times the low voltage battery can have a large amount of variation on it. It can go down to, below 8 volts sometimes. It can go up to 42 volt in surges and things like that. So this isolated bias supply is really well optimized for 24 volts in and, whatever voltage on the output that's needed. In this case, it's plus 15 and minus 5.
Okay, and so then that plus 15 and -5 is going to drive the both the high side and the low side directly?
No, that's a great question. So it's not. So
Ah,
the
okay.
reason why you have a positive and a negative is a lot of times, let's say this is a silicon carbide MOSFET. When you turn it on, you want to drive it at, let's say, plus 15 volts, for example. But when you turn it off, a lot of these devices, whether it's a silicon carbide MOSFET or an IGBT, you want to actually pull that gate voltage below the source voltage. And that's what this VEE2 level is actually. And so
Okay.
for a lot of these designs, you actually, you do that for mostly for like reliability and robustness reasons. You want to make sure that this FET or IGBT is fully turned off and doesn't, accidentally turn on, there's also some other features in here. You can see this clamp circuit here that also ensures that the gate voltage doesn't rise too high.
Okay. Right. So the clamp is for over voltage, and the negative is for ensuring that it turns off without any, for example, false turn on if there's ringing or something like that.
Right. And
Okay.
it fully turns the device off as well.
Is there anything else you wanted to point out about the design here?
There's a lot of information that we could talk about, but I think just for now, I think those are the highlights of this design. And I just encourage your listeners, if they want to find more information, there's a wealth of information on TI's website, and they can take a look at these reference designs. At TI, we like to put these reference designs together to help our customers and just the wider world understand these systems better.
One last thing is what kind of challenges do you have, like for example, as an engineer implementing these? So what are the kind of challenges that you run into as you're designing this or still are trying to address in these kinds of systems?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a lot of challenges when designing these. One of the things that I would maybe speak to about this gate driver, when you are designing this traction inverter system, you want it to be as efficient as possible. So if you think about it, if we can make this traction inverter more efficient, we can effectively extend the range of our vehicle, right? And batteries are usually the biggest cost in electric vehicles. And so the more that we can do to extract the energy out of those batteries more efficiently over the operating range of this traction inverter, the better. And one of the ways that this gate driver, this isolated gate driver does that, is you can see here it has the ability, you see this out H1, out H2, out L1, out L2. What those do is they provide the engineer designing this traction inverter with the ability to adjust the gate drive strength. Because under certain conditions, you want to turn on this switch as fast as you can. Sometimes you may want to slow down the turn on or the turn off. The highs are for the turn on, and the L1s and L2s are for the turn off. And with this resistor that's in series with these pins and the gate of this device, what that can do is you can put different resistor values here, and you can adjust the strength of the turn on and turn off. And this is very helpful for maximizing efficiency. It's helpful for reducing EMI and ringing in the system. And those are some of the big challenges that this device specifically addresses.
Thank you so much. This was a very interesting, and I hope my students can learn a lot from this reference design.
Well, I just want to say thanks a lot, Professor Kim, for the opportunity to discuss this with you. I've really enjoyed your videos over the years, and have enjoyed working with you even before you started posting videos. So thanks a lot for having me. Look forward to seeing you again sometime soon.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shenoy.